Well, you are very brave to do so, and you are an early pioneer in doing so and pushing back against the woke industrial complex in our schools and other places. And
Yeah.
thank God now we have a president, President Trump, that is doing it from a much bigger bully pulpit, and even he is having difficulty pushing back as you have these local federal judges
Yeah.
that are trying to make the judicial branch is supposed to be the judicial branch.
Right,
So
right,
that these laws that are being passed and signed by the president are constitutional, but the
right,
president is the person to execute the law, and
right.
conflict of powers there. Well, Tweet, let's
Yeah.
rewind some 50 years ago. April 30th, 2025 represents the 50th anniversary of our um, really unfortunate. Again, not unfortunate that we ended the war in Vietnam, but unfortunate the way we ended it. Those I still have in my mind's eye, seeing those kids and women left on rooftops in Saigon as the last American helicopter left for the sea to get on an aircraft carrier. You were one of those people that were fortunate enough, one of those children that was fortunate enough to actually make it on that helicopter and come to the United States. First, and you were a little baby at that time, but what do and talking with your parents about that, about what happened, and other relatives about what happened, and whatever memories, young memories you might have, what was that like in April 30th, 1975?
So, April 30th, 1975, is marked as the darkest day for the South Vietnamese people when the North Vietnamese Communist um, uh, army seized control of the capital of South Vietnam, which was Saigon at the time, is known as Ho Chi Minh City today. And I remember on April 30th, our family was so blessed to be able to get airlifted out of Saigon and onto the USS Midway. And as a young girl, all I remember was thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to America. Uh, what a wonderful, what a blessing it was for me to go to the most richest, the most glamorous, the most powerful country in the world. So despite of everything that's going on, I can hear the mortar coming into the city of Saigon as we are waiting for our helicopter on the embassy housing compound and waiting for it to be airlifted. And actually, our flight was the last flight out of Saigon. I mean,
My
you
God.
hear the video, you hear the documents saying that the airlift from the embassy was the last helicopter out of Saigon, but no, that wasn't it. It was ours on the housing compound of the diplomats. So it was like around 1 o'clock that afternoon. And so I can hear that the Communist Army was coming into the city with mortar bombing from the distance. And we would rush onto the helicopter at the Huey and as it airlifted out of Vietnam safely onto the USS Midway. So it to me, it was a surreal moment, and not because I was afraid, not because I was scared, because I was so excited of being an American. And I think that's my American spirit was born on that day on April 30th, 1975, because I knew at the time that I was leaving everything behind. I was fine. My parents were with me and my siblings were with me. So I was very comfortable that I was going to be taken care of. And so once we left Saigon and landed to the USS Midway, that was another, like the second shock to me that I am actually going to America. And I remember standing on the Midway, and I can see it was very crowded. There were people that had to dump their personal belongings overboard. So you see money, you see clothing, you see pictures, you see
Oh,
so much of the memories and personal belongings were just floating on those, in that open air and on the water. So it was like a surreal moment. You see Huey helicopters being pushed over because there were so many of us, and they want to make room, and the capacity was, it was over the top. So uh, it was a surreal moment on April 30th, 1975 for me.
imagine. When you
It,
came to the United States, what was the first city and state that you hit? It wasn't Florida, was it?
so what's interesting is though, so we were considered as legal immigrants, political
Hey,
immigrants.
right?
We left, and our first stop is to Guam. So from Guam, we stayed in refugee camps for about, I guess, 4 to 6 months. I mean, it seems like a long time to me. So we were in tents with no air conditioning or anything like that. There were six of us in the family, in a tent. And so from there, they finish our processing our paperwork, and then they move us to Eglin Air Force Base, which is the Pensacola. And so there we reside in tent for, I guess, another 4 or 5 months. And that's where they try to get like businesses, churches, or Americans to sponsor these immigrants, these refugees from the camp.
Sure.
And for those who didn't get sponsored, would have to get transferred back or return to somewhere, and I wasn't sure where that was. And because our family was so large, there were six of us. We were the last, or some of the last families that were sponsored out of our refugee camp. And I remember my dad and my mom were talking how worried they were that if we don't get sponsored out of our camp, we would be sent back to, I'm not sure, to somewhere else. And so we were so blessed that finally a church in Winter Park, a Lutheran church in Winter Park,
Wow.
sponsored our family and took us out of our refugee camp. And that's where we became part of the fabric of this American dream ever since 1975.
That is fantastic. What a wonderful story.